Hello everyone, I'm Robert Hisee. Most of you will know me, but for you that don't, I'm the UK's #1 unconscious mind therapist. And welcome to the MindKite Podcast. Hi, I'm Robert Hisee, the UK's #1 unconscious mind therapist, and welcome to the MindKite Podcast. We have the international legend DJ Colin Francis joining us here today, so thank you very much for joining us, Colin. It's an honour to have you here, mate. Thank you.
It's a privilege to be here, honestly.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much. And well, we'd like to model your mind a little bit today, if that's okay. So, like, learn a bit about, how you even become a DJ, and how you got into music. And I'm interested in going right back to the beginning. So, like, young Colin, wet behind the ears Colin at school, that sort of Colin. What was he like? The young you. Was music always a part of your life in your family since you was?
Music has always been a part of my life. I grew up around being an only child. And my mum having 8 brothers and sisters. There was 9 of them. So there was like older uncles, which my mum had me quite young. So my uncles were almost like brothers as well to me. And there was always very much about music. Had a huge record collection. And like I used to go after school and go and listen to, play some of their vinyl and everything else. And I just naturally started growing a passion for music.
What was your first album you bought? Can you remember? Can you remember that?
It's crazy, but I can tell you that one of the first singles that I ever bought was by Madness.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What track was it?
I believe the track might have been called Grey Skies, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, I bought like Musical Youth.
Oh, brilliant!
Past the
left. Yeah, I remember that.
And then there was like things like Tour de France, Kraftwerk. But I was always quite eclectic with my music. I never used to just be about one genre of music. It was open.
What made you feel good? That's it.
Yeah, it was. I never looked at music as genres. I looked at music as tempos, up tempo, down tempo, mid tempo, and just all different kind of, as I say, different influences. Having older uncles, you listen to music beyond your years, so to speak. So,
how did that get you into like the DJing? Was you learning back in the acid house days? Was that your sort of, when you started out,
what it was that at the time, my uncle had one Techniques deck which was able to have fluctuation on the pitch control. Yeah. And then he had one belt drive, which was, I think it's direct drive, where it's just 33 and 45, which probably a lot of DJs now wouldn't really understand what that means.
Is. I remember the little switch on it.
Yeah, so it was most albums played at 33 and singles, 12-inch singles played at 45. So there was just two speeds there, but then one deck had, as I say, the Techniques deck had the tempo and pitch control. So I used to go and practice around at his house after school, and I would get one tune, I'd play it on the deck which only had, 2 selections of tempo, and then I'd try and mix another track in to that.
From one deck.
So just started off with one deck.
Just dropping the one.
Yeah, but it was more so just sort of like
it's
just
a
trying to...
lot harder and all then compared to now, isn't it? I mean, I've tried mixing this on the old 1210s, and it was, especially on a belt drive, it'd go all the time, wouldn't it?
And you had to try and hold it in. But more importantly, what it does...
I remember, was that penny on the top of it or something?
Yeah, you used to put a penny on the needle, that's right, just to make sure it doesn't jump.
Bounce.
Yeah, that's it. But, it would be a case of for me, I was trying to see what I could create from putting 2 tunes together to almost when it's in the mix that you're creating a third tune. You're creating something new from just those 2 tracks being mixed together. And it's that feeling which you can create when you're in the mix.
Yeah. How does it feel to you? How do you feel when that first happened? Can you remember the first time you dropped, when you got it in time?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Just bouncing around the room.
Unbelievable. It just, it feels so good that sometimes you can hold the mix for too long.
You don't want to let it go. You don't want to take it away.
You can hold the mix for too long, and it's like, okay, you've kind of done enough now. You come out of that track into another track, but it's just a really good feeling when you keep going like this, like we're around. Does it come from your gut upwards? Oh yeah,
it's from the bottom.
It's in your soul. It's internal. It's an energy which it creates, and as I say, you feel it inside, but it's that vibrancy which you want to transcend out to the people what's playing, and there's no better connection that when you can see that the crowd is feeling the same thing as what you're feeling. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. So you started off on the 1 to 2, the one deck, and then
then I managed to get another deck.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And
then you was getting better and better. When did you do your first party? When did you first have the bottle to go, right, listen up, I'm going to go and do it?
The funny thing is, I used to, we grew up in Barking and Dagenham, so there was a nightclub called Connolly's back in the day, and my family would every now and again do private parties and that sort of thing, and we'd go in there and practice. And funny enough, there's a guy which I think you've probably had on your show called Joe Long. Yeah,
legend. Okay. Gentleman.
Yeah, well,
I love Joe. Great friend of yours. Grew up together, did you?
1,000,000%. And me and Joey used to play DJ together. Not many would know that, but Joe's passion is as much for sports as it is with music. Yeah. So we used to play at these parties and that sort of thing. And it kind of, transcended from just doing family parties, really. And then we managed to get a gig in another club in Barking called Chains. And there was quite a good lineup with that. It had the likes of Trevor Nelson.
Brilliant.
A guy which is a massive influence for me, DJing wise, a guy called Mickey D. And it was just a great honour just to be on that kind of bill. And then we managed to get up into the West End and started doing a few gigs in the West End.
So this was with Joe Long still?
Yeah, still with Joey.
UFC cage fighter, and there was a DJ
That's
back
the one.
in the day, dropping beats. Yeah,
we used to be called the Hit Squad.
The Hit Squad, I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And then as I say, then obviously Joey went into his side of things with regards to martial arts, and I carried on with the music. But it's weird because there's another synergy which it comes back again, which we'll go on to a bit later as to how we came back together to create something which pretty much was massively pivotal in my career.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going to get to that soon, yeah? I'm interested now.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. But
here we go.
We've still got to stay young. Stay in the younger days. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you and Joe were out bopping about. We must have been the face then, you boys, around that era, on them big DJs up on the stage, all the.
We wasn't really, the guys. We were
just sitting back.
Yeah, at that time, we was looking up to the big boys, so we was just kind of, we was confident enough in what we was doing, but you're still starry-eyed and still kind of, that's the aspirational levels to be at, I knew from that point I wanted to be a professional DJ, but growing up, it was always drilled into me and instilled into me from my parents about my education and to get my education first and foremost. So, I used to play football as well. I was at a young age.
Footballer?
I was at Leighton Orient.
Was you?
And so I was good at sports. I was lucky enough to be good. At most sports generally, but
Again, that could be to do with timing, can't it? You know, sports is rhythm and timing, same as music, I suppose. You could have a bit of a connection there.
But it was, for me, what it was that I was good at sports, but my parents always used to instill into me that, listen, we can't kind of roll on the stereotype of just, you know, you being, you know, the young black athlete, so to speak. And you need to concentrate on your academic side of things.
So make sure you had something to fall back on.
Million percent. You know, because, you know, there was always conscious of the fact that there'll be different opportunities for me due to what my colour is, etc. So it was always instilled to me that I need to work twice as hard and that sort of thing. You know, it's a real reality, because obviously my grandparents had come over from the, you know, West Indies, and, you know, bit by bit they brought their kids over. How did
that feel at that age, being told that by your parents? Was it like
you don't really grasp as to what they're talking about, because me growing up, I wasn't seeing that sort of thing and colour like that, because that was just what I was brought up around, and I took people for people. But obviously they was coming from
another generation.
Another generation where there's a lot more hostility. Don't get me wrong, there was some hostility within, you know, growing up in Barking and Dagenham. You can imagine, you know, we was one of the first black families in Dagenham at that time, you know, but it was, you know, there was respect for my family, fortunately, because of they all came from a karate background, you know, with martial arts. So, you know, so there was a little bit of a kind of a respect level for them already, in the community already there. But in terms of, as I say, for work ethic wise, they'd always told me, you know, you need to work on your academic. So as much as I was good at, you know, my sports, you know, I focused, and I mean, like I was almost like I was almost like a model student. I was a nerd. You know, I can't lie, I was a nerd.
I love this though, Cole, because, like, you know, as I say, you're an international DJ, you're one of the most well-known DJs in the UK. And on this podcast, I've been looking at most people, it's been like 90% of them hated school and never done good at school. Because not that matters, it's more about the vision aspect of what I'm trying to show people, is that it's good to hear you being the first person there to say, I'm academic, I love it, I'm a nerd, like, this is what I've done. So how did you manage to keep the vision? That's what I'd like to ask you about. How did you manage to keep the vision? Because a lot of academic people, you know, lose a lot of vision, I believe. And you still had your vision, you still had your dream. So how did you keep that alive?
For me, it was like, so I'd done my GCSEs, and then I went on to A-levels and done economics, politics and history as my A-levels. And then from there, I went on to university and done a combined degree in economics and politics. But, you know, even when I was at university, I was in the student union doing a night, you know.
Oh, so you still had it in there anyway?
Yeah, so I was still...
So you got a bit of the best of both worlds. You could still be the DJ. Oh, that's good.
Million percent. And with music, it's something which, regardless of whatever you're doing, even when I was revising, I'd always have music on in the background or whatever. It's always been a consistent part of my life. But
do you think better with music then? Would you say, well, if you were studying with a bit of music in the background, would it allow you to clear your thoughts a little bit?
It does. But you know what the weirdest thing was for me with what I found with music and with me academic side, and being nerdy a bit, like, you know, just academic, I used to always study the back of, back then it was records. I also always studied the back of them to see who played bass, who played the keys, who produced it, who co-produced it, who was the executive.
What was the process behind that? Why did you do that?
Because you started to realise that certain songs that you liked and certain sounds that you liked
come from the musicians,
was coming from the same producers. So like when I used to like things like New Jack Swing, that every time I looked on the back of it, Teddy Riley was the person what produced that track and this and that. Or
so you created these sounds.
And you start, and you start recognising the sound, and then you start realising that there'll be tracks what you'll buy, and before you even heard the track, if you know that it's produced by that guy, 9 out of 10 times, you know it's going to be good. Yeah. You know, you haven't got to listen to it. You can just go and buy it straight away.
Oh,
yeah. So,
that's beautiful.
You know, it was, as I say, I was a nerd, and I still am a nerd when it comes to the actual studying, you know, the background of it, seeing who the executive producers were.
You like your detail.
1,000,000%.
Big into detail.
1,000,000%. Which is a different to nowadays, where a lot of music is obviously MP3, so you don't get that kind of details. You just get the audio, and that's it. You don't get any kind of accreditation as to who's produced it, who played the, you know, the bass or the keys of it or whatever it is, or, you know. But
do you know what
I love that.
I hit on something there that you just said about hearing that sound. Yeah. Now, this is a question I ask people, and not many people know the answer to it. Have you ever heard of a band called the Funk Brothers?
Of course.
Come on, bro. You're one of the only people. There's only been a couple of people in my whole life who
Of course.
You've heard of them, yeah?
Yeah.
And for you at home listening, yeah, the Funk Brothers have had more #1 hits than the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Beach Boys put together. And who are they? Do you know? Anyone listening know? Yeah. And I'll guarantee 90% of people won't even know what we're talking about. Yeah. And if you want to know, it's the band for Motown.
Correct.
The backing band for Motown.
Right.
And that, when they talk about that Motown sound, the Funk Brothers was the Motown sound. So when you, like the famous guitarists, like down, 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 heard it through the grapevine. I mean, every song you can think of from the Jackson 5, it was the Funk Brothers. It was Stevie Wonder. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Right. Like, it's just, there's a documentary, anyone at home, I recommend, if you love music like Colin, jump on YouTube and look for the Funk Brothers documentary. It will blow you away. The songs and the life they lived, because they were, but they got treated pretty bad as well. They were like,
you know, they were just part of the
machinery.
Peanuts. Yeah, they were just part of the machinery. Like back then,
they had to drive down the country with guns on them and these old bangers and stuff. It was it was just,
you know, very good and created something, you know, phenomenal then. But it was almost like a machine, a factory, what they was just producing there.
Every song was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was due to them, really, wasn't
it? Yeah. But there was, I mean, you know, if you know the story of Quincy Jones, you know that he was quite pivotal behind the scenes to the likes of Frank Sinatra and that sort of thing. You know, he controlled the band. You know, Frank Sinatra was the guy which was at the front, but it was Quincy Jones what was orchestrating everything in the background and making sure that the band was doing what they was doing.
And does that feel like you on the decks? Do you feel like that's you? You're the Quincy Jones on the decks.
1,000,000%.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I mean, if I was to kind of in terms of music wise, if I was to say how I would compare myself in terms of how I feel when I'm playing, it would be the equivalent of like someone like Pharrell Williams.
Pharrell Williams, yeah.
Yeah, and what he does with the Neptunes, because they was like one of the first producers which, in my mind, really was open format and eclectic and done everything from R&B, hip hop, indie, rock, you know, country and western. They really just went right across the board, but still gave their unique sound. Gave their seasoning to that music. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I try and do with, you know, when I play. I try to, whatever it is, just put my twist on it.
Do you know what I learned about DJing? I can't DJ, I'm useless. My mates used to do it, and I used to try to jump on and have a go. But I'm a musician, I've got bang on timing.
Yeah.
The fucking timing to them old 1210s, mate, they were so spot on. This ain't as easy as people think.
No.
Nowadays they can press a button and sync, but then you had to earn your spurs. It was like, you couldn't just jump on a decks and have fun. It was like a bit of graft you had to go through to just to get them in.
A lot more of like the 80s music was not computerized like how it is now. Computerized now on Logic, everything's quantized.
Yeah, it's all in time anyway.
Even if you don't play in time, the computer automatically puts it in time. Whereas back then,
that's what happened, like just always touching up a little bit faster.
Exactly.
Always, never
but back
stopped.
then, a lot of them sort of like funk and, you know, the 80s sound was played live. So obviously,
you can go in and out.
You're gonna have human error, so you're gonna slightly be out. So when you're mixing, you're constantly, your ear has got to be in tune. And that was the beauty about learning to mix.
It's really crazy. You're talking about that. And me, I've been in bands since I was like 11 years old. And it's the same thing. You can play to a metronome or whatever when you're recording, but when you're on stage, your emotions move and you end up speeding up, slowing down, speeding up. And you can't help it. You just go with the vibe, what's going on. And you know, and
then when you start jamming,
when you start jamming, you just go and go. It's lovely.
The drummer starts leading the way with, or the bass starts going and leading the way.
Brilliant, isn't it, music? It has got such an emotional connection. And I think everyone loves music, don't they? I don't think, it doesn't matter what the music is, they'll find the music.
Find something which, connects with them.
If you go running, you put a bit of house music on, you run faster, you run to the beat. It's just, you listen to a bit of rock music, you feel like you want to take on the world. Like you're in a boxing gym now, so feel like the Rocky theme tune, you just want to get up and start punching things. You want to go for a run like it just makes you feel like you want to go to war. So from back then, learn how to DJ, going into clubs with Joe. How did you get across from DJing with Joe, looking up to these guys, to being the guy, to being the main man? Everyone goes, that's Colin Francis.
Okay, so
can you remember the little switch of that?
Of course I can, a million percent. I'm going to try and hit the key points as much as possible. I mean, can go in. There was a very influential guy for both me and Joe at the time called Swing, DJ Swing. And he had just been the first Mobo Awards winner for Best DJ. He was working at RCA BMG Records at the time. He just got a post there for doing like head of club promotions. So while I was at university, one of my main inspirations was the whole sort of, at that time, Uptown Records with P. Diddy, which he was obviously known as Puff Daddy then. And he created a group called Jodeci. And it was very much in my mind, remembering how he spoke about that he would get on a train for like 2-3 hours to go to Uptown Records to go and work in Andre Harrell's, as an understudy for Andre Harrell, who was the head of Uptown Records, just to be within that environment. He didn't want no money. He just wanted to be in that environment and learn his trade. And that always stuck in my head. So when I was at university, on my days off, I went and asked Swing at the time if he wouldn't mind having like an intern. I would come in there and I would, stuff the mail outs to send that to the DJs and whatever, and just generally just help out, call the DJs, see what they feel on certain tracks that we were sending out, just to be involved. So I used to get on a train all the way from Romford and go to Putney Bridge to where their students. So it's like from one end to the other of the district line. So it took ages, but and the funny thing is that he said to me, I can cover your travel and I can make sure that I get you scrambled egg, beans and toast every lunchtime. And I was like, mate, I'm sold. I'm in. I'm in. I was done at just the travel, but the beans and toast, mate.
You've wired that one, man. You sealed that deal.
I used to go out there like twice a week. And then, he became like a best friend and a mentor for me. And, God rest his soul, he was still, to this day, he's probably one of the best to do it DJ wise in the UK. And so,
what would you say you took most from him?
His energy and the way he was with people. He always had time for people. Always made time for people. And he had an infectious just aura about him that even if he met you for the first time, you'd feel like you've known him forever. And no matter what level it was, whether you was the bouncer at the door, whether you was the barmaid, whether you CEO, was the guy who owns the club, whether you was the promoter, whether you was he had the same respect and energy for people. And I loved that. You know, because there wasn't...
You say, I like just saying this because you're here to blow smoke up your ass, but when I first spoke to you, that's how you made me feel when I got on the phone to you. So you've obviously picked it, like, you picked it up unconsciously, because when I picked the phone, I was like, "Alright, Rob, yeah." And I was like, I feel like one of my mates I was speaking to. "Yeah, mate, do you know what I mean, blah, blah." And we got chatting, and then when you walk in here today, you got that good vibe about you, you know? So it's obviously... you've taken a lot from him by the sounds of it.
Million percent. And I mean, it's one of those things, I mean, I've always been that way,
nice
but you know,
anyway,
yeah, but it's like in this industry, you don't come across that all the time. So when you do, you gravitate towards it a lot more. You know, when you get that synergy with people, and you can see someone is that way inclined. And I just learned so much from him. I mean, on the decks, he was phenomenal, but as a person, off the decks, he was also phenomenal. And very humble, but very hardworking. You know, people never used to see how much work will go in.
They never do they? Like, even like listening to you going to do that, people don't see how much hard work you've put in for nothing to get a bit of egg and bacon. Or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you've put in the work in, and successful people do. I say there's successful people do what other people don't want to do. That's what makes them successful. And
1,000,000%.
It's so interesting here. I wasn't expecting to hear like these stories from his dad. It's really, I'm really blown away by it as well, that you've done that sort of thing. You put yourself out that much to be.
1,000,000%.
And was you get like, because you say you're like a detail guy, you like your information, was you loving all the information you was getting, like the way the DJs would tell you how they felt? And
listen, I was in the belly of it.
Yeah.
I was in the belly of it. So when the music was coming over, I mean, like, we serviced Puff Daddy's first single over here in the UK, Can't Nobody Hold Me Down. We done that. We serviced a group called the Wu-Tang. We serviced their album.
Wu-Tang, the first one was brilliant. Enter the Wu-Tang, wasn't
it? Yeah. And, you know, it's just so surreal, because, I mean, even like then working at BMG, you know, you had the likes of Simon Cowell was there as well, you know. But again, another guy called, in our office, we had another guy called Danny D, Danny D, for those who don't know, is like part of, or created Stargate, which Stargate is one of the biggest production teams in the world, produced for the likes of Beyonce.
Wow.
You know, and Neo and this kind of thing. Crazy. Like ridiculous. And we were just in an office space as big as this ring. And
really?
Yeah. Danny D had done a track back in the day called "It's Time to Get Funky" in the kind of acid house days.
I can't remember that track. To get funky.
That's it. That's it. That was Danny D. That's it. So he done that track.
About that track. Yeah, I'm gonna Google that later.
Yeah, exactly. So he done that track, but yeah, Danny was in there, and you know he was in the department as well. And then, as I say, he went on to greatness. But I think it's not by chance when you surround yourself with people which have got a certain amount of drive and energy. As I say, you know, like I'm fortunate enough to be successful in my field. But then, as I say, it's not by coincidence that
you put
the likes of what Joe's gone on to go and do in his field and be a leader in what he does. Is that
you've both committed? You've both
it's a formula. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, it's the application, how you apply yourself to what your goal is and what your aspiration is. I always used to say to myself, I want to be the #1 DJ in the UK. That's what I used to pray for first. Then I said, I want to be the #1 DJ in Europe. Like, that's the next thing. I was like, I want to be one of the best DJs known in the world. That's where you set yourself. And it's like...
you raise your standards each time.
When you achieve one thing, then you're on to the next one. But it's like, in terms of...
Beautiful.
When I was going to HMV at the time, record shop, I'd go there, and you know, you used to have the name tags on when you go look for an artist. So you go and look for, you know, Dire Straits, or you go and look for UB40, or you know, NWA, or whatever it is. But it'd all be in alphabetical order, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I always remember thinking, wow,
I
can't sing. I was all right at dancing, but that ain't going to get me on the shelves. But one day I would love to be able to have my name on one of them tags and have an album.
And did you imagine that? Did you sort of see it in your mind, visualise it?
Of course I did. I'd go in there.
See your name there, be there.
And I would actually go to...
See?
Yeah.
Just to make sure I'll be there soon.
And visualise it.
That's phenomenal.
And then it was so surreal because I was then... Swing introduced me then to... He was working on the London circuit at the time for an organisation called Scintillate at the time, which was... They was like one of the leading club promoters, which was doing all the kind of the cool, trendy clubs and where everybody wanted to be. This was early days of when clubbing as we know it now was a first then. Table culture, you know, you go, you get a table, you're in the VIP, that kind of thing. You had to be somebody to be in that club. You couldn't get in if you... It weren't a name, if your name's not down, you can't get in. It literally was, even if your name's down, who are you? Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
And so he was on that circuit, and then he introduced me into that circuit and said, look, if you want to take this as a full-on vocation, think about what the end goal, what you want for the week, how much you want to earn in the week. And then break it down into like mini goals. So if you know, for example, that you want to try and earn, I don't know, at them times, you want to earn £500 a week, let's say. Yeah. £2,000 a month. Yeah. Break it down into earn £100 5 days for 5 days. So do a set, do 5 sets. What's going to get you £100, and then at the end of the week you got £500. And at this time, since they would do like maybe 2-3 nights a night, they'll do 2-3 clubs a night every night of the week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it was a no-brainer to be able to be involved and you can be able to do, you know, as I say, you know, the icing on the cake was if he was able to do 2 or 3 in that one night. So it kind of started from there, and then that's what took me out to Marbella through them. And I started doing Marbella. And I was doing my thing then, and then it kind of then started to gravitate towards, because you was around that clientele, the footballers, the models, you know, it wasn't called influencers back then, but it's as good as what they were. You know, these people were the aspirational people, the people what other people wanted to be like, and then you're there playing music for these people, and then you end up doing some of their private parties, you know, and then you then start becoming friends with these people. But you're friends with the people which are at the elite, they're at the top. So you know every single one of them, if they're a top actress, a top actor, a top footballer, you know...
Boxer, world champion boxer.
Whatever it is, you're in the top of the top. So when you're conversing with these people, when you're around these people, it just naturally rubs off on you. Yeah. You know, and in your mind, you're the best DJ. And in their mind, you're the best DJ. Yeah. So then when they go to do what they're doing, they're like, we want Colin.
That must have been an amazing shift.
Unreal. So we was doing all these, you know, doing all these parties, and then there came a point when me and Joe had a conversation. We were talking, because Joey obviously saw all what was going on, and you know, he would come to some of the parties every now and again, and then he sat down and he's like, we had a mutual friend, and he said, I think that we should have a meeting with this guy and maybe look at doing, at the moment, everywhere's doing compilation albums for Ibiza or this or that, but nobody's doing a compilation album for like Marbella. And he's like, yeah, and then we started thinking about it more, and then formalised and put together an idea as to because again, at my parties, I was already doing videos to promote our parties. So I already had a TV commercial. I knew TV commercial-wise what the idea and how a TV commercial would look, because we was doing promotional videos.
Yes, you've got it already. You've already
so I already had
visualised
that. So then, obviously, in terms of track listing and the music side of it, well, that's second nature to me.
Yeah.
That's easy. In terms of the marketing wise, as I say, that was, Joe's hand all day long. That's all he ever done, is that. And, I had a network to be able to put it to as well. And then at the time...
You put the detail with the planning, that's it.
And then at the time, it was just like the sort of start of the era of sort of like Twitter started getting big and things like that, and social media started getting big. And again, through my DJing, I was doing parties with Mark White at the time as well. And Mark just went into Towie. And so, we sort of had a, good relationship growing up and everything else within our music scene. So then we was like, okay, well, we get Mark to do the voiceover. And then we'll also, why don't we do a party in Marbella, where you are, with everyone there, put it on Towie, TV commercial, while it's on.
Brilliant.
When it's on, get everybody tweeting about the album and everything else when the advert goes out during the commercial breaks. We already had it all
visualised.
So by the time when we presented it to Ministry of Sound, they kind of got it, but they didn't fully understand it, because that wasn't their world. Yeah. Their world was Ibiza, thousands of people. Yeah. They couldn't understand how you can have a small demographic, but it would be the demographic which we knew would smash it, because I'm out there every week.
Yeah,
and I also knew that with Marbella, the way how the generation was coming through, it's about aspirational levels. You're changing. You're going from youngsters which their first holiday was Falaraki or was, Malia or something like that.
That's all changed.
This next generation coming through, their first holiday was wanting to be Marbella or Ibiza.
The glam,
Yeah, that's what it was about. It wasn't about going and drinking out of fish bowls. It was about going and get a table, get a bed. That's where they was going to. That's where the next generation...
I know what you're talking about. There's a big shift, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a shift. But again, if you're not in it, you wouldn't understand that shift. But we knew that. So then, Ministry's words to us were, you know what, we'll take a punt on it. And they said, if you do 40,000 in the entire shelf life, that would be great. An entire shelf life usually means about maybe 3 years or whatever the case is. In our first weekend of sales, we became the highest selling album.
Serious?
That digital sales that Ministry of Sound have ever had.
Wow.
Surpassed Head Candy, everything like that.
Serious, yeah?
Yeah, we've done I think we've done over 25,000 the first weekend. And then the next weekend, where usually the sales start dipping, our sales actually went up because the word started spreading. Yeah. And then as well, you couple that with me being active with DJing out there, the social media, the Towie thing. And then I think that year as well, Ministry of Sound actually won an award for the best marketing strategy. And
that was yours. You've already done it. You and Joe Long done it before.
We've done it.
Genius.
That was our idea to do that. And then that really was just the catalyst to when my career sort of really
took off into another level.
Yeah. Because, you couldn't put a price on that kind of marketing dollar, what you was getting put with having a TV commercial led album. because you was in front of everybody and you was in front of the demographic, what you're playing to, because they were watching that TV program. And that's the same people was coming to your club and coming to your venues. So then it all just, the synergy was there. There's a video, and going back to what we're saying about mindset. Yeah. There's a video, what you'll see, if you Google it, of when, in that 2013, I'm doing a party in Marbella, and there's myself, there's Mark, and there's James DeGale, who's another good friend of mine. So Mark says, watch out for this guy. Trust me, one day he's going to be world champion. Well, we know how that ended up. Yeah, that story ended. Yeah. Amazing. So, you know, it's, as I say, we've been fortunate enough to be around.
And do you notice, like, being around these people, because I know I certainly do, people talking vision. Where when I grew up as a kid, no one spoke in vision. You go, you visualise anything. What do you mean? What do you mean? A holiday? What are you talking about? Visualise, daydreaming? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And this is the difference that, you know, people really have to, I think, the reason why I do what I do is to give vision, to teach people the mind that if you ain't seeing it, then you can't be it. It's end of story. It's like having a sat-nav, you know, if you don't put a postcode in, how can it direct you? So if you ain't got your vision of what you want as an outcome first in your mind, your unconscious can't direct you to get it, you know? And how did it feel, guys, when you see your name in the record things, when that first day? Do you remember what that was?
Of course I do.
What shop was it?
It was Lakeside, HMV.
HMV.
Yeah. And
that must have been a buzz.
We went in there, and you know the most surreal thing...
Did you know it was going to be there, or you didn't know at the time?
Oh, no.
You knew it was coming?
I knew it was going to, because what you get is the pre-sales.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You get the pre-sales. So they was already buzzing, because just on the pre-sales alone, it was already charting high. Yeah. So to go into HMV and know...
no, your name's going to be...
and see your album on the top shelf...
All them years of mixing them little one decks at a time, all that grafting you were doing, sitting there for nothing, eating egg for your wages. There you go.
And then I've gone there now, and then you see on the chart, your album is number one. We surpassed Disclosure, who at the time was massive, and Daft Punk, with the same said for Pharrell Williams, with the track was called Get Lucky.
Oh, you're going to check, Get Lucky.
Yeah. So, and we surpassed both them albums and went number one. And it was the most overwhelming, you know, feeling ever to see that. And I remember going in after again with my mum.
That must have been
she was just like, she couldn't contain herself. And I remember, I think I bought every single one what was in the shop. Like, you have to.
Yeah,
you have to.
Yeah, I'm selling out this.
But bought every single one. So then I walked up to the counter, and the person serving me must have thought, what's this weirdo buying
all these
things? And then Mum's like,
that's my boy.
That's my boy. Yeah. Look, you know, that's him on the CD and whatever. And
it must have been a magical moment to remember that.
And then they called like some of the other staff members and whatever, and was like, this is the guy what's you know, made this album. So they ended up, for half of the CDs what I bought, I ended up signing them and giving them back. I gave them back to the people in the store. But you know, it's nice, because even, you know, years later, I'd bump into some of those people just randomly at clubs, and they never forget. They're like, I still got that CD, what you signed for me, you know. And it was an amazing feeling. And then, I mean,
must be a good feeling on its own, knowing that people are coming up to you years later saying, "God, I still got it."
Without a doubt.
Because that little intimate moment with you, you know, as well, it's all part of the. It must feel great.
Yeah.
And it's mad, like you said about your mum, it's mad the things in life we remember about our parents. We was talking about earlier, about first band I ever went to see when my dad was the Rolling Stones. It's one of them things that you can remember like yesterday, and you were saying about your daughter you took her to see.
she plays bass guitar, and the first concert that we went together, and I took her to was George Benson, which is way before her time, because of what she enjoys, she can appreciate the artistry. And I said to her as well, I said, look at the fact of this guy is in his late 60s. Granddad's in his 60s, yeah? But look at what the energy and what the command, what this guy is doing in this room here.
Yeah.
I think we went and watched him at Hammersmith. I said he was making these songs when he was probably in his 20s. He's now in his 60s.
But the energy's...
But he's playing with the same passion. But as soon as he's playing a song, he's in the moment. He's there like he's 20 again. When he stops, you can see he's a bit fatigued, a bit tired or whatever. Stop.
Music's timeless. It is. It's
But
literally
it is
that.
And it's just, and it's just the feeling which it creates. And then again, it ties in with when you've got a passion for something, you love something that much, it never goes. That fire always burns in you, always. And that's what keeps you going. And I think when you lose a passion for something, you lose that hunger, that drive, that's when you kind of lose a bit of
bit of your soul.
Yeah, and it goes. But with music, because it is that's why you see some of these footballers or some of these boxers that they then go into punditry afterwards, or they become coaches or whatever, because that's what gives them...
Yeah, they have to stay there.
They have to stay within it.
It's who they are now, yeah.
Because that's who they are. And with me, with playing music, you always get asked, how long can you do this for? And I'm like, for as long as people want to hear me play.
Yeah, you ain't going to stop. Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? I said, it's
not
not
working.
a 9 to...
You ain't working. Yeah.
It's not a 9 to 5. It's
a passion.
It's a lifestyle. It's...
I understand that. My missus once, about 2 years ago, because obviously I come from working class, I've done all the, every job you can think of. When I found my passion for the mind, and I work with people, as you said, I don't feel like I'm at work. I'll go work any day of the week. I don't care what day of the week is. I go, it ain't work. I love what I do. I love helping people. And she said to me one day, babe, I just ironed your work shirts. Cole, she might as well said your mum's a slag or something.
Yeah. You're swearing at me.
I went on the turn. I went, what do you fucking say? She went, no, it's fine. No, they're not my fucking work shirts, babe. I don't have fucking work shirts. I wear my shirts for the day, and if I go work, I don't go work. I don't have work. It's fucking work shirts. She went, you know what, fuck you, do it yourself next time. And I thought, I felt right bad. And she just buying me shirts. I'm just like, give it, because it really sort of wounded me a little bit. I don't call it work.
I get it.
It's not work, mate. You can't call it work.
I mean, how can we call this work? This is just us having a chili, and that's it. But
it's passion.
It's passion, and it's like, the saying. What they say is that if you do a job that you love, that you'll never work again.
Yeah, it's the truth. But you can hear the passion in your voice when you speak about music. You can hear the feeling in your breath as you even say this. The music, the feeling, like the passion's in your soul there, Cole.
I love it.
And it's in your music, and that's why you're number one today.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you always say you always see yourself as a number one, and that's what I call myself, the number one unconscious mind therapist. And that's how it is now. I am the UK's number one unconscious mind therapist, because everything gets made twice. First inside your mind and outside here in our reality. Yeah. So, given all the new, before we go on as it goes, what's the next for Colin? What you got coming up? I know we're a bit buggered with this coronavirus at the minute. We're stuck in the situation.
That's fine. Listen, it will go. It'll pass, and we'll look back at it. And I think it's also been a good time. I think. Yeah. The positive side of it is that it's made people have to start to kind of think outside the box a little bit.
Get outside of that routine.
Also realise that you can't get too comfortable. You can't get stuck in a comfort zone. Yeah. And don't, as they always used to say, put your eggs in one basket. Yeah. You kind of got to be, versatile and adapt. And be able to adapt. And
so what's coming for you for the future then?
For the future, I do a thing called the Colin Francis Project. Yeah. And it's like, I DJ, but then it's also bringing like more of a show together where there's dancers, entertainers and everything else, what kind of comes together, and bring other DJs in on it as well. And then I've kind of made an extension from that as well. I've got my own vodka. So you know, I'll be pushing things
You've
with
been
that.
busy. You've been busy.
Yeah.
Creating new stuff.
Yep. So that's something which I'll be pushing more. I've got something as well on the side of, you know, Colin Francis projects, which is like pushing the concierge side. So then when you start to tie everything up where you've got straight from your house, you go into the car, what takes you to the airport, the flights are booked, your hotel's booked,
Brilliant.
your bed's booked, your table's booked, whatever it is, if you want a 24-hour shift. But
That's
I've got
amazing.
a concierge arm which deals with that.
That's
Private
quality.
jets, whatever it is. So then it all just comes together. And then when you've got that, all of a sudden you're even more powerful because you're then stepping to a venue before you even touch the decks.
Yeah.
You already know that you can be facilitating and bringing X amount of people. That's where the power's at.
Yeah, that is powerful.
You know, that's where the power's at. And when you can bring powerful people to the club
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
you know?
It's another level, isn't it?
That's the one.
Absolutely another level.
Yeah. So
What's the vodka called?
The vodka it's actually called DJ Colin Francis.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
you know it's cranberry flavored, which is the
nice,
you know
nice.
I always if I have a vodka, it'd be with vodka cranberry. So obviously you had other
You kept it true to
vodka.
you. Kept
Yeah,
it real
of course.
to what you
Again,
do.
you know the brand always has to be in line with
Who you are.
Who you are, for it to be believable to people. You know, if I started saying that I'm doing a gin brand and they always know me in the club as drinking vodka, it's like, well,
what are you doing, mate?
what are you doing? Yeah. But people know me for drinking vodka cranberry, whatever. So we've done a cranberry flavoured vodka, and obviously it will range into different flavours as well. But initially, that's what it is, cranberry flavoured vodka.
Well, look out for that, guys.
Yeah.
Get yourself a bottle.
Yeah. You know, but that's the future.
What information would you give any young DJ or any young musician coming up now for mindset for them to, go towards what they love? What would what would be out of your life's experience?
Yeah.
What do you think's the one line you could give?
The harder you work, the luckier you become.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, you have to be persistent. You have to be quite tough-skinned, resilient. You know, don't accept no. Just because one door doesn't open, knock on the other door. That other door doesn't open, knock on another door. Keep on, because one door will open.
The law of averages, isn't it?
Of course it is.
That's how I look at it, yeah.
Of course it is. It's all a numbers game. If you're in sales and you're not a DJ, if you're in sales, it's all numbers.
Yeah.
You go by X amount of leads. If you have 100 leads, if you get one of them, that might be the only one what you need. Yeah. You know, and it's like you don't stop. You just have to just keep on knocking on the door, sending your mixes to promoters, to venues. And, eventually you will get that break. But keep that self-belief as well, because you know that once you get that opportunity to prove yourself, then that's all you need.
When preparation meets opportunity, that's the saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true, we've got to be prepared.
Yeah.
Colin, thank you so much for today,
been
brother.
such
That
a
was
pleasure.
really deep, good conversation about music. I love it, very... very passionate about it myself, so thank you very much.
Thank
buddy.
you so much,
really
Rob.
appreciate
a
it.
real pleasure. Yeah.
Oh, and also, don't forget, everyone, the MindKite Festival, so it's the mindkitefestival.com. It's in May next year, 21, and we've got, the headline is DJ Colin Francis.
And I can't wait.
We can't wait to have you, brother.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some of them bottles all around the pool, so get yourself there. There'll be DJ Francis everywhere, little baby ones.
Brilliant. Listen, thank you.
So.
Thank you for having me, Rob. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, my bro. Thank you very much.
Top man.
See you next week at the MindKite Podcast.